This episode of the Party Loaded podcast is proudly sponsored by Audible.com. Check out their awesome catalogue of audiobooks with over 180,000 titles to choose from. And be sure to grab a free audiobook on us and support the show by visiting audibletrial.com/endgame.
Let's party.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Party Loaded, the video gaming podcast for Wednesday the 28th of November. It's getting on in the calendar. All right, so my name is Luke Ritalik. I'm joined tonight by three of our other hosts who are completely high on life and ready to bring you everything great in the world of video games. We have up first tonight. Let's introduce Mr. Game Dad, Matt Dyatt. How you doing, buddy? What's going on?
Oh, I'm high on anger.
You're high on blood pressure. Nice.
Yes. Yeah. High blood pressure. That's good.
Well, yeah. Okay. We don't want to have a heart attack or anything. Just keep an eye on yourself during tonight.
I've also high blood pressure with some good news, but I can't talk about it yet.
Okay. So. Cool. That's high on something else too. So we've also got Christian Paulson Brown. What's going on?
Hello.
Welcome.
I am also high, but I'm high on beets, but not the kind that grow on the ground.
Pulling those fat beats. We got Jam as well. Welcome back, Jam.
Yo, high cholesterol.
Holy shit. Oh, man. Well, one thing that's not been high over the last week is dem video game prices, hey? Anyone snag any sweet deals over the Thanksgiving, Black Friday / Cyber Monday sales?
Yes.
I made Santa a list. That's how it works, right?
Yes, absolutely. A list of demands.
I bought a couple of games on the Steam sale, but I've already forgotten what they are.
Oh, wow. And this is why we sit with lists of games that don't ever get played or completed, Christian. You're an example of this fine behaviour.
I bought games over the sale, and I've played through one of them completely already over my weekend. I just completely smashed it out because I was having so much fun.
Wow.
But I'll talk about that later.
Yeah. That's a pretty good effort. Nice. It almost justifies further purchases.
Yeah, it does.
I believe the sale is still on. You can pause at any moment and just quietly do what you need to do. So,
if you hear clacking from my keyboard, I'm currently looking.
So Jan, what did you ask Santa for? What's if you're a good little girl, what are you going to get this year?
I mean, that's not the criteria, right? That was a lie, right?
You better hope so.
I've heard some fabulous things about a couple of neat VR games. So I have asked for a PSVR from the Santa Claus, as well as some board games.
What a
Fingers crossed.
coinky dink, because I also have asked for a VR after speaking to the exact same person that you're referring to. That same person
that could be.
who was here sitting here with us tonight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
I've been
you.
playing Beat Saber.
Yeah, it might be because you've been playing Beat Saber. Before we let you just dive into that, though, because I really super want to hear about this game, I will just say that for the first time in the last few years where we've actually been talking about VR sort of on an on-again, off-again basis, this is probably like the first period where I've actually felt pretty good about the purchase given how many good games are out there for it at the moment.
Yeah. I feel like it's time for me.
Yeah. Absolutely. Spoiled for choice. Like, there's some stuff that I would consider, probably unmissable at this point, and I'd be kind of sad if I don't get to experience. So, yeah, I'm right there with you, Jam. I think it's time. It's ready.
Tell us.
All right, Christian, over to you. Tell us all about them fat beats and what's going on.
Yeah, so I've been a VR advocate since like day one, basically. I picked up my PSVR straight away, and I definitely agree with what you're saying, that there's a big enough library now to support a purchase for anybody, and Beat Saber is a huge part of that. So for anybody who hasn't seen GIFs or videos online, Beat Saber is like VR Guitar Hero, where you have two lightsabers and you have to chop notes in the like certain direction as they fly towards you. And the soundtrack is like drum and bass or like electro style tracks. And the game's just fucking amazing. Like the fidelity of the actual VR is like spotless. The tracking of the remotes is amazing, and that is so important because sometimes the beats coming at you super quick and you're like flicking your arms around like a Jedi and just like annihilating these beats as they're coming at you. And if the tracking was even a little bit off, that would just be completely messed up. So you have to like, at first I was like hesitant to move too quickly because of like bad experiences with other games. But once you kind of just trust that the tracking works, it's so good. And there's plenty of tracks in the game. There's quite a lengthy, like, it's called a campaign. It's just like a branching path of different missions that you progress through that add different modifiers onto the songs. So you might have one that, you're only allowed to miss a certain number of notes, or the song might be playing faster or slower. And then eventually it gets harder, and there's things like you have to get a perfect score on this song to beat it. Or some of them are really weird, and they're like, you have to miss a certain number of beats, or you have to get a certain number of incorrect cuts. Like if the arrow's on the left, you have to cut it on the top. And the reason that kind of does make sense is because, like with Guitar Hero, if you get enough wrong, then you just fail the mission. So you have to kind of strike a balance where you're confident enough that you're doing well, that you'll purposefully do like an incorrect cut because you know you can recover from it. You know you can like push the bar back up away from failure just by like doing a perfect string after that.
Oh, so it's like limboing kind of thing.
Yeah. You have to see how far you can go, and then some of them are really tricky, and they'll have a minimum and a maximum number of like misses. So you have to, at some point during the track, miss a total of 15 notes, but if you miss 20 notes, you fail. So you have to be super confident that all the ones that you're missing are going to be like the only ones you miss, and that you're in control for the rest of the song. Yeah, it's weird. There's one modifier that I actually really don't like, and I think that I've read other people online agreeing that it throws a difficulty spike that's too high, and it's disappearing arrows. So when the notes are coming towards you, normally you can see like top left, bottom or right to cut. But with disappearing, after like a split second, the arrow disappears, and you have to remember which side of the cube to cut. Ooh. And there's so many notes coming at you, and the arrows are disappearing so quickly that it's quite frustrating and difficult to remember where you're supposed to be cutting. And like, compared to the other levels at that same point in the campaign, it's just so much more difficult. And I actually went, but fortunately, because it's like a branching path, you can bypass any levels that you don't want because there's going to be other ways through the campaign. So I did like go around those levels and went into more difficult ones, and then eventually came back to those and did clear them. And that's another thing that I wanted to say about the game, which is there's such a satisfying like progression in your skill. Like at first I'm playing the songs on like normal difficulty, and I'm sort of just getting through them, and then you, like with Guitar Hero, work my way up to hard. Yeah. And then I chuck on an expert track and think like, oh, there's no way I'll be able to do this. This is just like way beyond my capability. But then eventually you get good enough that you're doing expert levels, and it's just really satisfying. And you get into an absolute zone where you're hardly even looking at the notes anymore. You're just like in this kind of fourth dimensional zone, and you just
flow.
Yeah, you're just in the flow of the beat, and it's so good.
I'm looking forward to it so much.
Yeah. And there's even some tracks you can do with one saber, so only like one move controller, and it sounds like it would be super easier. But they throw so many notes at you so quickly that even though you've only got one saber, it's still a challenge.
Moving twice as fast.
Yeah. But it's so good. And they are adding a bunch of new tracks for free, and there's going to be paid DLC song bundles as well. Because on the PC version, you can do the custom tracks, so people can upload their own tracks with like custom like beat progressions. But PS4, a bit more of a closed down system, so can't do that. But I think it's fine to have some like curation in there by the devs. Some of the songs I noticed too, they're like legit good songs. Like I've been listening to some of them in my spare time, and like one of them I was surprised is actually by one of my favorite artists, who's Porter Robinson. He goes by like Virtual Self as his like musician handle, and there's a song by Virtual Self in there, and he's like one of my favorite artists of all time. So I was super happy to see that song in there.
Cool.
So are any of these like commercial sort of bands, or is it mostly sort of drum and bass and like techno type stuff. And
yeah, it's drum and bass and electro and techno type stuff. You're not getting any pop or rock or the kind of, you're not getting anything you'd see in Guitar Hero. It's all like electronic stuff,
right?
Because it's all about like high BPM, and just like fitting on the beat every single step of the way. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure. I mean, you've seen with some custom tracks probably that it can be adapted to all sorts of musical styles. But I think that kind of electro beat fits it the best. So
one of the things that fascinates me as a possibility, if they do get to go down this path, is video game soundtracks. Whether they can actually, maybe some of the ones that are Sony native, if they got the option to work with Sony and adapt some of those as like a special PlayStation only exclusive, that would be really cool if they did that.
Yeah. I think that on the PC version, there are more of the built-in tracks are like licensed music, but they have no lyrics in them. Like, I don't know what the deal is with like the licensing, but it must be like easier to license like a karaoke version of the song, where it doesn't have the actual lyrics. Yeah. So maybe they can pump some more recognizable songs in there, just minus the vocals.
Yeah. I must admit, I did get very excited when I was looking on YouTube and I saw that they'd adapted some of the Doom soundtrack tracks, like, especially BFG Division. That is perfect for Beat Saber and looks hard as balls. So, man, that kind of stuff would be amazing if they could do that. I don't hold out hope, but still.
The game Beat Saber is also, it's a legit workout as well. Like, today I was playing so intensely that I was having to take off the PSVR like almost after every song, and I had like my beach towel and I was like mopping my head.
Wow.
It's kind of gross to say, but it's like sweat pooling in the headset, and I'm like getting tissues and drying it out, and my arms, I can feel it in my arms now. Like it's like I've been working out at the gym, and I think it's actually going to do good things for me.
That sweat and VR headsets, that's exactly the combo that you want. That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Well, Jam,
it's going to kill me.
I was going to say, Jam, it's convenient that you and I are going to have our own headsets because no sharesies with that going on, I don't think.
No one's going to want to touch. Nope.
Oh, God. Yeah, I'm excited. It sounds real good. And the multiplayer stuff that we were flicking back and forth amongst ourselves today in discussion was super exciting too if that comes to PlayStation. So they're talking about having like tournament modes and all sorts of stuff. So
it has a party mode in it at the moment, but I don't actually know what that does. It says like play with your friends, but it's probably just like taking turns or something. Yeah, so
like a recorded progression.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know, but full blown multiplayer, like kind of like if you have like the two lanes going and you can like interfere with the other person's lane somehow, like
that'd be sweet.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Or maybe like if you manage to combo and take out some of the blocks, you can fling them over to your opponent's side or something like that.
Yeah, or like just give them negative modifiers, like make their sabers shorter or turn one of their sabers off for a second, something like that.
I imagine that a lot of the stuff that would work with multiplayer Tetris would kind of probably adapt to that, actually.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that comes to mind for me is like these are lightsabers, right?
Oh yeah.
Like they are basically weapons. It should be a battle. And like the whole idea of actually like, if depending on how successful you are at swiping the blocks heading towards you, you get closer to the other player to kind of close distance and then hit them. And maybe it's actually like a whole HP thing. That'd be amazing.
That would be kind of cool. I doubted to do that, but that would be rad.
No, you get closer to them so that you knock out blocks underneath them and their track moves up and they have to reach further.
Ooh.
The lightsaber effect, it really feels like you're holding lightsabers, because if you touch them together, then the move controllers vibrate.
Yeah.
So you can like slide one lightsaber like along the other, and in your mind, it's like you can feel that there's something coming out of the end of the move controllers. It's really really effective.
That's awesome.
That's good.
So for anyone planning on getting this, I guess that's an important point for us to note that Beat Saber is one of those games that you need the PlayStation Move controllers to play.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's download only, but it's only like $40, $45, I think. So you're not paying $80 for it, even though I think it's probably the best PSVR game. So it's well
you got to
worth
buy those
any
controllers
price.
separately.
Yes.
Oh, do you?
There's the new bundle that they just announced like today or yesterday that is going to come with 2 Move controllers, Beat Saber, and Borderlands VR.
Oh, I need to update Santa.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
When
Santa
the
needs
PSVR
patching.
first released, the move controllers were actually a major problem.
Yes.
Because there were enough headsets, but not enough move controllers for everyone.
I was smart, and I saw Smart off Gumtree before PSVR launched because I knew there was going to be a shortage.
Maybe I need to get smart and organise that now.
Yes.
Now it's the aim controllers that's the problem, like the gun adapter. They're hard to find.
Yeah, interesting. They're in a new bundle now as well, though, I believe. So,
I think so. Yes, Beat Saber.
Yep.
Awesome.
Beat Saber, super awesome. So, Jam, you weren't here last week. We had a fun discussion. I believe you probably have like a small right of reprisal before we continue.
Well, okay, so Fallout 76. I understand and appreciate the vitriol.
Did you listen to the episode?
Sorry?
Did you listen to the episode?
Not yet.
Oh, but
I've been
you picked up enough. Yeah.
I did clip a few choice bits for you, though.
Yes, I'm aware. And I get it, but I love the game. I'm having so much fun, even though I'm encountering some really annoying bugs, like I lost my power armor, lost my favorite gun. I heart it so much because I guess, I don't know, it's just my priorities and what I want to get out of it. I'm not driving to finish the storyline. I spent the first 20 levels just poodling around with friends who were lower level to help them get through different areas. So it wasn't until roughly level 20 that I experienced a challenge, and that's where I absolutely fell in love with the game. My favourite moments have been grouping up with friends and getting out of our depth. It's just been extraordinary. Mimo and I were just picking a direction. We started wandering and we found this cool golf club, and we thought, that's nice. And there was some robots at the border, so we thought, oh, what fun. This is a peaceful sanctuary. And then we ran further in and got absolutely destroyed. It was quite a shock. It was hilarious. And then we went back with more friends the next day, later. I can't even remember. Luke, you were there.
Yep, I was there.
And smashed it. Like, we were, I think the highest among us was late 20s.
Yep.
Fighting level 60-odd things. And it was hilarious. People were dying.
My camp is now in this golf course for that reason, because there is so much good stuff to do.
Oh, my gosh. It's so good.
One of my friends got to level 50 in a day.
Wow.
By using a bug that's currently in the game. Nothing super bad, but the way that they did it.
I was going to say, like, Matt, using a bug, you're going to have to narrow it down a little bit.
Yes.
Just a tad.
So you go into that golf course, and you basically piss off all the robots and lure them all out to the car park, all around the cars, and you blow up the cars, and when all the robots get blown up by the car, you gain a whole crap ton of XP.
That's evil. The robots are our friends.
But then when you get to level 23 and you get the perk that allows you to disarm traps and build traps in your home, there's a bugged trap somewhere in the game that you can never disarm. And so you just keep on disarming it, and he basically did that for 2 hours until he hit level 50.
How is he not bored out of his mind?
That's not cool.
That's not fun. Oh.
Yeah.
But the other day I was
Sounds about as much fun as the rest of the game to me.
Fair. The other day I was on, and Ollie, Dave, and I think Luke just didn't make it in time. We encountered the Mirelurk Queen and managed to pin it and slowly wear it down while we dodged its spit until it seemed to get confused, and then I just ran in with an axe. And that was hilarious.
Choppy, yeah.
Yeah.
I had the final boss of the game spoiled for me, and it's amazing.
Ooh.
It is incredible. It looks so cool. It actually makes you want to get to level cap and go and do that gigantic raid.
Hunt it down.
Is this the one that they ripped straight from Skyrim, or is this a different one?
I
think the thing that Adrian's talking about with the stuff ripped from Skyrim is the Scorch Beasts.
Yep.
So it is a Scorch Beast, sort of.
Yeah.
All right, we'll leave it at that.
I'm loving it most exceptionally with friends, and I'm going to keep playing it. Warts and all.
Yep. It's
probably.
entirely fair.
The only thing that has knocked the soundtrack out of my head too in the last week is Christmas carols. I've got that soundtrack pretty much on loop.
Nice. Yeah, I'm pretty much at where I was last week with it. It's a dumb, fun, stupid, buggy game that I still enjoy the hell out of. So, yeah. It's the most fun bundle of bullshit I've had in a while. So, I think that's, enough said. It's good. I got to play a bit of the second Spider-Man DLC this week, though. So, Turf Wars is out. So, I'm following on from the Black Cat-centric storyline of the first chunk that they released last month. And so Turf Wars is all about Hammerhead, who's one of the fairly notable Spidey sort of gangland villains. And, his thing is that he's got like a heavily scarred head that probably has like a metal plate built into it of some sort, like gives him a devastating sort of headbutt attack. And he's just, he's a very, very scary kind of gang leader, Godfather style character. And they play that up quite a bit in the DLC. But the spin on it for this one is that basically he's trying to wipe out all of the other mafia bosses, or the Magia as they call it in the game. And to do that, he's actually managed to acquire a whole bunch of shipments of the Sable tech that's utilized by Silver Sable's troops in the main game. So, it's a very thin justification for reskinning of basic troops and a couple of new sort of types of enemies, really. But I don't know, it kind of works for me. It's not too bad, and there's a few of them that are actually quite interesting to fight because there's baddies that instead of having like shields or whips or another item of weaponry, some of them actually have multiple of them on the same character. So finding out how to sort of skid around them and acrobatic your way into a position where you can actually knock them down is kind of challenging. So particularly when you're fighting a whole bunch of them at once. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's story-wise not quite as compelling as the first one with the Black Cat stuff, but yeah, it's good. I think it's heading in a good direction. I haven't quite finished it yet, so I don't know where they'll leave off. The Black Cat one had quite a good cliffhanger, so we'll see where this one wraps up. But yeah, Spider-Man still good fun, all things considered. And Matt, I'm super pleased that you got to play some stuff that I've been talking to you about for a while.
So last week I didn't really get to play a lot. I was doing a whole bunch of other things, but this week it's completely different. I have completely offset my last week not playing much to play a whole bunch this past week. And yeah, so the stuff I picked up during the holiday sale was Hitman. I picked up the original series of the original episode 1, I guess, of Hitman 1, but it's confusing.
Yeah.
I picked that up and Hitman 2. And basically my entire weekend was just spent playing Hitman 1 and going through start to finish. And yeah, it's really good. I was kind of surprised because the last Hitman game I played was Blood Money, and it is nothing like Blood Money.
No.
It's not even close.
It's like Doom 3 to Doom 2016 level of difference. Yeah.
Yeah, the levels are immense, and quite honestly, probably the least fun part of the game is going through the level of the first time, but it gets more fun when you actually go back and you start mastering those levels by figuring out the right paths to take. You learn where you can go and erase all the data of being caught on camera and everything like that, which is a lot of levels I never actually found that in Hitman 1. And yeah, it's actually surprisingly challenging to get the Silent Assassin medal that I used to get all the damn time back when I was playing Blood Money and everything. But by the last level of Hitman 1, I finally did get my Silent Assassin level on the first try I got through there. Nice. I was really damn happy with that. And that led me into Hitman 2. And so at the moment, I've gradually gotten better at Hitman 1 enough that when I went into Hitman 2, and there's a couple of quality of life changes with how NPCs are aware of things. So they're more difficult in some ways. Like Luke, you pointed out, they can actually see you in mirrors now.
Yep.
But in other ways, like one of my biggest issues in Hitman 1 was that if I hit a body around a corner and somebody walked past it, they've got like 180 degree vision. And so the moment they walked around that corner, they'd see the body there out of the corner of their eye. Whereas in Hitman 2, the number of times I've had bodies just laying out in the open and some security guards just walked past the hallway and not seen a thing, I've been like, oh, this is great. I just leave bodies laying around everywhere.
Mate, you should be fired.
So I'm playing the first actual level of the game right now with the racetrack. And
so not the New Zealand house on the beach.
I finished that. I finished that one.
Mm-hmm.
So I finished that one already, and I spent a lot of time in that just playing around with the level. Because they made that claim about how many different ways there are to kill enemies, and even compared to Hitman 1, I found with Hitman 1 it was almost a little bit linear in some ways, because the only way to get a lot of opportunities to kill somebody was to kind of follow these leads that they kind of drip fed you throughout the level.
Mm-hmm.
Hitman 2, like, it's like the very first level, person turns up, figure out a way to kill them. You've got a variety of different ways to do it to get her separated from her guards. And I've kind of learned that that's the major difficulty in the game, is typically separating a target from their guards.
Yeah.
But then I got to the racing level, and I'm currently playing it on the Master Assassin difficulty, which is the first time I've tried that out, where you only get one save and everybody's much more self-aware and aware of their surroundings and everything. And I've been having a ton of fun with it so far. It's actually currently paused in the background because I've only got the one save, and I've actually made some progress after that save. But, like, taking out the female driver has been so much fun. Like, the pink flamingo suit that I found while I was playing the PAX demo,
Yep.
I killed her while I was wearing that.
Nice.
And it's worked surprisingly well. I've only had to restart the game once, the restart level once to get to that point. But after having learned the ins and outs of just that path to get to her, I was able to kind of repeat it without mistake, get to her, take out her guards while she wasn't looking, with her literally just standing there giving me this gigantic spiel about how she was going to kill me if I didn't do what she wanted. And then just shoved it down a hole. It was pretty excellent.
Yep. Awesome. Have you noticed the change up in humour between the two games as well?
Yes.
Yeah. 47's got some great dialogue choices in the new game that just had me in stitches. Like, I've played a bit this week too, and one of the ways I discovered how to kill the guy on that level, Robert or whatever his name is you can actually take the place of a vendor outside selling these coconut ball things, and you can poison them. And when he actually comes over and samples them, 47 basically says, "Yeah, you should try these. They're to die for."
Oh no!
This is awesome.
One of my favorite lines is when he's wearing the pink flamingo suit in 2 right now. Is you go out and you can actually sit down with her bodyguards, and I did that the first time, not realizing I should probably take them out because they were going to follow us. But I sat down with them, and there's some really funny back and forth dialogue where one of the bodyguards is poking fun at the fact that 47's wearing this pink flamingo suit, and it's like, "Oh, what? Are you here for a job interview? Because you probably should be wearing something nicer than that." And Hitman 47's basically like, "Oh, my suit was in the dry cleaners," and then he's like, "Oh well, do you wear crazy outfits like this often?" And he's like, "Oh, you have no idea."
That's awesome.
But yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. And yeah, speaking of enjoying things, the other game that I played in the past week was Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh, do tell. Okay.
Yeah. So my opinions changed a little bit. The game's still a piece of shit.
Wow.
No, last week when I was playing it, a strange thing happened, and I was finding myself actually enjoying it and finding some actual joy in the game for once. And I think it was because I finally got to chapter 3 and the story and the gameplay opens up at chapter 3.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's a big difference. It continues on as well.
Oh, yeah.
It keeps getting better.
But that still feeds back into one of my major issues of the game, the right reason why it's still a piece of shit. I shouldn't have to play a game for 20 hours to finally start enjoying it. Like, it's just reminiscent to me of a lot of feedback I've heard a lot of the Final Fantasy games get.
Yeah,
where
Kingdom Hearts 2.
Yeah, like just huge opening areas that you have to wait through. Like, I thought the tutorial start was bad enough, but then to realize that Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 are just that, really not very open experience. And then it kind of starts opening up, and the fact that you can actually be good starts playing into things a lot more often. Like, that's really frustrating. But yeah, I actually have been enjoying it more. I've been finding a lot more fun in the gunplay, and the sort of things that you end up doing from between mission and mission. Like, it's actually a lot more fun. I'm actually enjoying it. The story still isn't great, but I have met Sadie Adler, and she is awesome, like you say, Luke. And I'm looking forward to spending more time with her because she's a badass.
You've got no idea. You really have no idea.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
Oh, that's all I'm saying. But yeah, if I was going to go and change my review on Red Dead Redemption 2, it's probably gained a point.
Fair enough.
That's progress.
Yeah.
Little
It's
steps,
progress.
baby steps.
I haven't played online yet, though, so we'll see how that changes my thoughts on it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably a perfect segue into some news.
Now it's time to hear some gaming news. Time for some gaming news.
All right, so out of nowhere, surprise, surprise, Red Dead Online beta just kicked off. Like, Rockstar just drops it.
Is it a beta? Are they calling it a beta?
Yeah, they're actually calling it a beta. Like, one of the questions that was being asked quite a bit was with regards to progress carrying over and that kind of thing. And the vast assumption from most people have been that, yes, it will carry over, similar to how it did when they launched Grand Theft Auto Online. But Red Dead have Rockstar have kind of come out, I think, today and tempered expectations just slightly, just to make people aware that if they do actually encounter significant technical difficulties with any of the progression systems in the game, they will consider resetting them and
That's
wiping
fair.
progress to I think that makes total sense. Like, if they don't do that and people are able to game the system for massive advantage, especially given that this will be eventually a cash paid system to get some progression items. I don't think you can afford to piss the people off who actually pay money by letting people take advantage of glitches and stuff. So that totally makes sense to me. So, yeah. But yeah, the sort of release for online was a bit staggered. They've opened it up first to people who bought the Ultimate Edition, which I'm very fortunate to have made the decision to do. So that's good. I got talked into it by EB's Games staff member, and this is one of the few occasions where I'm glad they talked me into it.
Oh, they saw you coming.
They do. Yeah. I've got my game Sherpa down there, and I say Sherpa in a way that implies that I look to them for guidance and direction. It's not really the case because I tend to be more informed than most of them. But it's good to sometimes bounce off another person when you're considering different options. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. But yeah, and then opening up to people who played on the launch day and launch weekend, which of course counts us out because we're all at PAX. And then finally on the weekend to the rest of the public. So a little bit of a staggered release just to sort of get the numbers going. But
interesting way of staggering it. Like people who played it on these dates.
I think
Strange.
it's kind of good the way they've done it.
I like it, but it's just I haven't seen anything quite like it before.
Well, it implies they've got a way to actually record that data in the background in a way that makes sense to them, which I don't think all game releases would have the same kind of structured ability to do that. So,
I should just try access it, see if it's like call their bluff.
Give it a go. You just never know.
I think I'm probably able to play it now too, because I think I did play it pretty much on launch.
On launch
No,
weekend?
I'm not.
So
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me.
haven't tried.
So I haven't spent a lot of time in yet. I hopped on earlier this morning and did my character creation, and I have played the opening couple of missions this evening just before we started recording. So character creation, I've actually decided to go with a lady gunslinger, largely because of how much I love Sadie Adler's story in the main game, and because I kind of feel like I've played Arthur Morgan, I've done the sort of the cowboy sort of tale. I'd really like to play as a female online, just for something different. I don't do it with every game, but occasionally I do. And I'm a big fan of the old sort of cowboy lore around, Calamity Jane and some of the other characters, movie or real or otherwise. But yeah, and I was also kind of curious as to how they treated the gender divide in the narrative elements of the game too, because there are definite themes throughout Red Dead of like the women's suffrage movement and some of the gender heavy stereotyping that makes them quite downtrodden and sort of underestimated in certain circumstances. So given that Red Dead Online is going to be a much more open world sort of situation where power wise, like the women and the men in the game are probably going to be on relatively equal footing, if not exactly equal footing, because game mechanics have to play out that way. I was very curious to see how they actually did that. So we'll see as time goes on. It's going to be interesting. One thing I will say is that one of the most powerful and influential characters that drives the story with Red Dead Online early on is actually a lady. and she seems quite interesting. So looking forward to where that heads. There was a bit more story in the outset than I expected, actually.
I'm surprised you were talking about a story. I didn't even know there would be a story.
I didn't either, but there is. And it very much explains sort of how you get started and why you are where you are in terms of how you sort of kick off your outlaw career. So, and I think it sort of functions as a mechanic to get you started on some introductory missions to kind of learn the ropes of the online version of the game as opposed to just, straight Red Dead from the single player experience. Because I think that Rockstar must still be anticipating, similar to what they did with Grand Theft Auto Online, that there might be some people who buy this and just play online and don't actually bother with the campaign. So
yeah,
it makes sense. For them to
Highly
do that.
likely. Have you killed anyone yet?
No. I think they gate most of the early online content behind those missions, and then you get to do free roam after that. So
what you're saying is you're waiting till you can kill me,
absolutely,
like in Fallout.
Absolutely.
I get it.
So yeah,
Right.
it's going to be good. So yeah,
Pistols at noon.
Yeah, you can bring a pistol. I'll bring something much bigger. Thank you very much. But my lady gunslinger is Betsy Boomstick. So.
Oh dear.
Yep. I thought.
God.
Thank you, Christian.
I second that.
That was so eloquently done.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to having a good time with it. So I've seen a lot of articles coming out today that have spoken about some of the mechanical features that haven't really been, I guess, shown up until now that seem really interesting. There was one I linked you guys to just before we started recording tonight about the PvP and griefing kind of controls in the game. I just wanted to mention, because this is fascinating. So it seems that when you actually go after another player and repeatedly kill them for whatever reason, like maybe they accidentally run your horse over and you take, umbrage to that. The game actually recognizes when you've attempted to kill someone multiple times, and it actually gives you an option, or gives them an option to either parley or to have like a challenge, like an actual showdown. And if you parley, then basically it kind of, I forget exactly what it does, but it separates you and makes it, you can't actually use your weapons. You actually only have dialogue choices and local chat to kind of diffuse the situation. So like you actually get to talk them down for real in the game instead of actually having it out with each other, which is really interesting. And that can be enacted by one player as opposed to both. But the other option, the duel or whatever they've called it, that has to be accepted by both players. And if they accept it, then basically it puts you in a sort of a gunslinging shootout style instance where you actually get the number of kills counted and you sort of continually respawn until it sort of winds down. And it just seems like a way for people to sort of get into like a close firefight and blow off steam without actually costing each other like a huge amount of progress by killing the other person's horse or dumb stuff like that. So in terms of managing PvP and like, players being dicks to each other, I think it's absolute genius, personally. I think it's real cool. So
Yeah.
I think it sounds great, but we'll have to actually see how it plays out in the long run for how much people engage with it and how fun it is. But it does sound good on paper.
yeah, I think so. And there's a lot of other sort of competitive ways for people to engage with each other too, like at horse races, and there's a battle royale mode in the game as well, which apparently you can actually do a version of with I think it's in a swamp, and all you have is a bow and arrow, and you kind of creep around sort of sniping each other, which sounds really cool.
Hilarious.
Yeah. So like a silent assassin hunter kind of thing, which I guess you'd utilize a lot more of the skills similar to when you're out in the wild actually hunting animals. So, but yeah, like early impressions are pretty good. We'll see how it plays out over the next week, and I'll probably chat a bit more about it next week. And no doubt you guys probably will too if you jump in and have a look. So yeah. It's good. What else we got?
Something else we'll hopefully be talking about next week too. After all of the complaining about the bugs in Fallout 76, particularly complaints about the fact that Bethesda weren't telling anyone anything, they've finally responded, which is awesome. They did it through Reddit first, which I thought was really interesting, but I guess that's where the fandom is and where they're probably complaining loudest and hardest. But they've outlined the next 2 updates, which is really good, promising a few little things and progress to come, and that they're going to be more engaged from this point out. I think they're hoping to do weekly updates from here on out so that it's not just silence until some huge mega patch confuses everybody. But it's exciting because the first patch is December 4th, so early next week. They're going to bump up the stash limit.
Thank God.
Initially, it's going to go from 400 to 600. And when they're sure that's stable, they hope to add more in the future. Fix some boss loot issues, some power armor sticking issues, and respawning when over encumbered. And an interesting one I saw, cryolator effects. I haven't seen this weapon in the game now, but apparently the stasis change that you'd get if you got frozen by it would last 2 hours.
Oh.
What?
Yeah, and they're going to reduce that to 30 seconds. So that's a pretty substantial drop on your stasis effect cooldown.
Wow.
Damn.
I assume that just
Imagine
slows
being
the target
slowed.
down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Ugh, yuck.
Yeah.
The second one, which is out December 11, is a little more interesting. There'll be a push to talk for voice chat, which so many people want. Some resolution and field of view settings, which is great. You'll get the chance at level 50 to respec potentially. Instead of choosing a card, you can shift a special point.
That's great.
Previously allocated. Yep.
Yep.
And then 2, I'm very interested in camp placement on login. So last time I logged in, someone had set up a camp like sort of similarly close to mine, but not where mine was. And mine was packed up and it's just gone. And when I ran to put it down somewhere else, I had to start rebuilding it from scratch. You're going to have the option, if you log in, instead of automatically blueprinting, you can say, no, I want my camp, and it'll chuck you in another server where that space is free, which is great because, I mean, if you're not particularly attached to the server, or, I mean, your friends can jump with you, let's be honest. But also a bulldozer option so that you can move small objects inside to assist in building your camp, which I was having trouble with some trees and some rocks near a river when I was building mine. Apparently you're going to be able to remove them.
That's incredibly useful. Absolutely.
Within the bounds of your camp. Yeah, it's awesome.
It's the whole reason I'm building in a golf course now, because there's nothing in the way.
Yeah. I was having trouble snapping just this one stupid foundation because of a tiny bit of, I think, a boulder, like a little corner was overlapping. I don't know. It was dumb. But it's neat. Yeah. They've responded. They've promised some stuff. They've let people know what's coming. They're promising to talk more. I'm hoping they've realised that this is so much more important for a multiplayer game than it was for Skyrim, when people could say, you know what, I'll just put it down for 3 months and then pick it up when they've fixed it.
I think
it's a social game now, so they want to keep the player base engaged. It's more important. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I really think and hope that the thing they take away from the response to Fallout 76 is that they need to fund their QA department way better than they have in the past, because
potentially
it's gone from being endearing with Bethesda to just ridiculous, and it's particularly problematic when when Fallout 76 is released that you don't have access to mods, which is what people would use in past to repair a lot of those issues that the engine has, and a lot of the issues that Fallout 76 has are issues that have been fixed by people on Skyrim and Fallout 4 using mods and such that Bethesda's just never actually implemented in their engine. It really points to some fundamental issues inside of Bethesda itself and how they do QA and quality control their games that this shit keeps on happening.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that changes them.
Some of these issues, like the stash limit, that's universal. Everyone's complaining about it. How would that not have been picked up sooner?
Mm-hmm. Well, they did sort of mention that part of the fear that they had around that was the number of objects that they were tracking in game, and they were concerned about it sort of throwing other things out, which I kind of get, and that's why they're increasing it in increments. So, but I don't know. We'll see. The real positive thing I think at the moment is that the community that is engaged is really engaged. And the people that I come across in the game, unlike almost every other online game, they're actually pretty freaking awesome. They're really, really good.
I've seen some hilarious folk.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of gratitude on the Reddit thread too. There's even people commenting saying that they've cancelled their request to be refunded because finally they've had a promise that this is going to be fixed and that's going to be fixed. And, they're looking at this other list of issues. So,
Yeah.
Steps forward. Fingers crossed.
Yep. Absolutely. Oh, well, speaking of a similar game that actually went through a remarkably familiar trajectory when it first launched, Hello Games is still coming good with more stuff for No Man's Sky. So they've actually released details of a big bunch of changes that are coming this week under the label of the Visions update, which is version 1.75 of No Man's Sky. So they're adding a whole bunch of sort of basic stuff. It's not like a heavily themed update like the last one was around the undersea stuff or the next update was prior to that. This is more just sort of, a whole bunch of aesthetic changes and some really nice new life forms and flora and that kind of thing across the board. But they're also updating how the community research missions work, which is like kind of like the ongoing sort of weekly content that they've been running for a while now. So what's going to happen now is that players will be able to share their individual progress together to work towards a common goal. And the stuff that they actually will be able to get as rewards are things like new emotes, building parts, and they've added fireworks to the game. So
Smart.
Yeah, so people now can build really super awesome looking pretty bases and then have a party light show to show them off. So that sounds awesome. But yeah, I'm impressed with where that game's at the moment. And I'm actually very keen over Christmas to jump in and play a bit more because it's calling me back. It really is. Yeah.
Speaking of games calling me back, Destiny news.
Oh, God.
Bungie announced what's going to be going on with Destiny 2 in future. So there's a lot of detail I'm not going to go into, but the basic gist of it is that for the next year, there won't be any DLC. Like, the Forsaken is the last DLC that we're going to get for some time, and I imagine that after this next year, we'll be talking about Destiny 3, not another DLC expansion. And the way that they're doing things is that they've got this new annual pass that gives you access to a whole bunch of essentially DLC content that just gets spread out over the course of the next year. And then if you don't get the annual pass, you still get access to a whole bunch of seasonal events and such. It's super reminiscent of how World of Warcraft handles their post-expansion content updates. So, they go and release their expansion and everything. You get this huge hit of content in there. But then basically for the next year after that expansion comes out, you're looking at patches and major patches that give you access to brand new stuff and a brand new season of content and everything. It seems like Destiny's kind of moving over to that model. It'll be super interesting to see how they handle that. But some of the key points, so each content update comes with a 50 light level power increase, and this is basically seasonal. There's going to be 3 seasons over the course of the next year. The first one is Black Armory, which launches on December 4, and it brings new gear and a new raid. And then there's the Season of the Drifter. And then there's a last season after that, which is Mystery Season, but it has a badass robot with a sword, so I'm totally in. Mm-hmm. There was a huge spoiler that I stumbled across that I'm not going to spoil anybody else with, but holy shit, the story potential is so good from it, and it is going to piss off so many people for the right reasons, and I love it. It is so good.
Is this something that relies on Destiny 1 lore knowledge, or is this something...
No.
Okay.
No, it relies on Forsaken knowledge.
Oh.
And there's a bunch of Grimoire cards that, now that we have seen this spoiler, make a lot more sense. And yeah, as I said, there's huge story potential in there. It feels like they're really focusing on making Destiny a lot more personal for your Guardian, going forward in future, in addition to that space opera stuff that they have going on in the background as well. But yeah, no, I'm super excited for where Destiny is going, and I was saying to the gang earlier that my major issue with Destiny, I love Destiny, but I can't justify playing it all the time because after that first month, I'm so far behind everybody else. But if they're kind of drip feeding content over the course of a year instead, I can probably keep up with that, and I can probably manage to actually play much more often and justify playing much more often.
Yeah.
But the other piece of Destiny news, I'm not actually sure if it's news, but it was news to me, so I'm sharing, was that one of my friends linked that there's a Dungeons and Dragons complete modification called Dungeons and Destiny, which basically you get to play Destiny characters, the Destiny universe in the tabletop setting. It was created by somebody called GG Kitty that have a Patreon. You should totally go support them.
The most Destiny of character names.
Yeah. But it has some really, really awesome ideas. Like I was reading through the player handbook. So they actually make use of darkness zones and oppressive darkness zones in the same way the game does. So if you enter those, your character can't be healed up by your ghost or resurrected by your ghost if you're in an oppressive darkness zone.
Ooh.
So it adds this whole risk factor. Whereas if you're in a light zone, your guardian can constantly be getting healed and resurrected by your ghost. There's no limitations on that. So you can basically create raids in the tabletop setting, which is really awesome. I love that. There's options to play as otherwise typically enemy races, but it's the version of the races before they turned bad. So like I think it's the Helsinki were the Fallen, before they became Fallen. So you can actually play as one of those if you want to.
A bit like Spider.
Yes. Yeah. Well, so Spider is still a Fallen, but these like pre-Fallen characters. It's really interesting. So they actually get to have Guardian classes and everything. And speaking of the classes actually map really, really well to D&D 5e, the way that they kind of style things. So, rather than splitting it up in such a way that you choose a hunter and then you choose a specific type of hunter to play, you're choosing a gunslinger hunter to play as, and then every time you level up, you're getting access to gunslinger hunter abilities and such. And they've also added in stuff like the way the weapons work. So you have strength shotguns, but then you also have agility shotguns, depending on which class you play, and they operate differently. They have big plans for the future on the tabletop. The one that in there that I think is the most interesting is that they actually are working on Crucible rules. So you can have tabletop PvP.
My God.
That is such a cool idea.
Hilarious.
Awesome.
I want to play.
Yeah, I've actually been sitting here thinking about it all day, and I think I might actually like do a campaign, like a really short one, and run it here in Perth and actually live stream it, because that would be really fun.
Yes.
That would
That'd be
be
sweet.
really fun. I have so many dice; it's time to make use of them.
Yeah. Matt, let's talk later.
Yeah. But yes, so and there's one other final news item that I know we're all looking forward to talking about. But seriously, fuck the Australian Game Awards.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go into a little mini rant here. But what the fuck's the point? Like,
Yeah.
they're called the Australian Game Awards, but there's one category in there for Australian games. And then you have Australian games mixed through other categories that are up against huge American titles. Like, so in the mobile games category, you have Florence up against Fortnite, which quite honestly, Florence has a very good chance of winning. It just feels like they've just looked at the Game Awards and they've just kind of ripped it off and then thrown in a single category for Australian games and called it a day. It's a missed opportunity to highlight the Australian games industry to a larger Australian audience. And there's a whole bunch of issues in here because of who's running it. So to put it in context, the people that are running it also run MCV Pacific, and they're responsible for the awards in general. MCV Pacific is part of the Trade Media group of websites, and this includes Esports Pacific and The Influence. So that's a esports news website and the influencer news website specifically. So like YouTubers and Twitch streamers and that sort of thing. And you can kind of see that influence reflected through the awards and the fact that there's so many categories that are specific to esports or influencers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
commercialized.
I actually broke down the numbers because that's one thing that really pissed me off is there were so few categories that are actually about games in the Australian Game Awards. Like, it's cool recognizing people in the wider industry, but it's still called the Australian Game Awards. And so there are 30 categories in total. Guess how many are actually awarded to games out of 30?
Like 7?
It's 12 out of 30, which is still less than half of the categories in an Australian Games Award are actually awarded to games. And then there's another 12 that are awarded to personalities, like people, and then there are 6 that are awarded to entities, like companies or organizations. So
I made the point again to someone the other day that about what I discussed previously about there being no podcast category, even though there was separate categories for like Twitch streamer and Mixer creator and that kind of thing. And they're like, oh yeah, it'd be good if there was some more categories to encapsulate that sort of stuff. And I made the point, no, you don't want more categories. You just want better categories.
Yeah.
Because it turns out that the podcasts can be nominated, but they're just nominated in the same category as like IGN. As best, like, I don't know what it is, but it's like any category that captures a small podcast and IGN is just fucked up.
Look, I'm not saying that the way the Australian Game Awards have been put together this year completely sucks shit out of an asshole. But I'm kind of saying that the way the Australian Game Awards have been put together this year kind of sucks shit out of an asshole. It's terrible. It's the worst thing in my mind. Like, okay, complaining about the way that an awards thing is done is, one of those countless things we can waste our rage time on the internet with, and at the end of the day, it doesn't really do a lot of good. But the thing is, while it's great for the people who get nominated and maybe, take out a few of the categories, even though they're up against like massive entities that, the David and Goliath sort of perspective just makes no sense whatsoever. It's fantastic for them to be nominated. I get that for some of those content creators, it actually puts a spotlight on them that actually does a lot of good. Our friends over at Pixel Sift have actually been nominated in one of the categories too, and more power to them. I think that's fantastic. The fact that a podcast actually, gets to ride alongside some of the other names on that list is awesome. I'm really, really happy for them, as much as I hate the way it's all come about. But at the end of the day, the problem with this, and the problem exists more so because it's called the Australian Game Awards, is it's the opportunity cost. It's the fact that how much value could this add to the industry if it was actually fucking done properly? My God.
Yeah. And like so let me preface my comments here by saying that this is a criticism of the awards and not for the people that have been nominated for them or the games that have been nominated for them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But awards like this in Australia have a real big problem of becoming just a huge echo chamber of the best games that Australia has to offer, getting rewards repeatedly, and the best of the best developers that Australia has to offer, getting awards repeatedly. But it hurts the industry as a whole if all we're highlighting is freaking Hand of Fate 2 every single time that there's an award out. Like the fact that there's an Aspie Life is in there for Australian Game of the Year, and it's up against Hand of Fate 2. Like, it should still be in that category, but the lack of broader categories for Australian games to actually get measured up and to... Like, there's no way that an Aspie Life can compete against Hand of Fate 2, because there's just a completely different level of engagement that's going on there. When you're talking about, Australian Game of the Year in such narrow terms, right? Like, if it was Australian Serious Game of the Year or Australian Student Game of the Year... that would, an Aspie Life should totally be in that category, would have a really good chance of winning.
Yeah.
But the fact that it shares a category with such huge other titles is just ridiculous. And like this, one of my biggest fucking problems with this whole thing is that, so even though I just said, Hand of Fate 2 keeps on getting all these awards and everything like that, but Hand of Fate 2 has a nomination for one award. As far as I've seen when I've gone through the list, Far Cry 5 and Fortnite have 4 nominations. They're not Australian games.
No.
Why the fuck do they have, like, we have literally got the Game Awards for those sorts of things, right? Yeah. We don't need a repeat of that in Australia, and it just feels like the only reason they're there is to get asses in seats at the ceremony.
Oh, it's a sponsorship
That's
thing.
the
Absolutely.
only reason
it's where the money's
there.
coming from. Those companies have, presences over here in our neck of the woods, and they're helping to put the event on. And there's obviously a tribute being paid to that fact in order to sort of get them on board. I don't know what exact arrangements have gone on behind closed doors to get that kind of thing happening, but, this stuff does not happen accidentally. There's business reasons why it's the case, and it is a real shame that those have to exist at the cost of the integrity of what the event should be achieving. So, this could be a showcase to the rest of the world. Like, people could be looking on this going, this is the Australian Game Awards. Let's see what stuff we don't have in our country that Australia's doing that is actually a fantastic example of what's possible in the industry, out there. And all they're going to see is the same shit that's everywhere else in the world.
Yep.
So, yeah.
It'll just put across the point that apparently the only games that are in Australia are the ones that they already hear about all the time on Polygon and Kotaku.
Yeah.
Because they're the only ones that get coverage. Like, it'll be the same fucking things. The only 2 games on there that I hadn't really heard about much on Kotaku or Polygon was an Aspie Life and the VR regatta thing. Like, they're the only 2 on there that were new to me when I was looking through the awards. And so this I'm bringing this back around to a bunch of conversations I've seen going on Twitter. But this is a criticism I am actually directing at a couple of developers. But if you have won multiple awards and you're going out there and telling other people that they shouldn't be upset because the awards are somehow meaningless or not that important for some reason or another, it's a really bad fucking look. Like, that just says that the only reason to you these awards aren't important is because you keep on fucking winning them.
Mm-hmm.
Every single time there's an award, you're getting nominated and you're winning them, and they're becoming meaningless to you. But for everybody else, if you're a small developer and you get some sort of, state or international or national recognition in an award like that, that's a huge deal. Like, not only for the benefit of your game, but also your mental and emotional health. Like, the fact that you can say, hey, my game wasn't a financial success, but it was a success critically. And for people to be going out there and saying, well, I've developed all these games and we've gotten all these awards and everything, and they don't really mean much unless we get money or something out of them. Seriously, what the hell? Like, that just is to the detriment of everybody at that point, if you're basically saying that the awards don't matter unless you're getting some sort of financial or professional benefit out of it. Like, that's real bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely. So in summary, go vote for Pixel Sift because they are friends of ours and they do good work.
Also, Jason Ims.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, also go vote for Jason because Jason totally deserves that award. There's a lot of people in there that I've not heard about, but then when I've gone and actually read about them, I'm like, holy shit, these people should absolutely be getting awards. There's good stuff in there. It's just the actual structure of the awards is so fucking stupid that it's not even a bad first effort. It's just bad.
Yeah. But fortunately, there are examples out there of better ways to do this. So let me handball over to Christian for our main topic for tonight.
Yes, indeed. So as Matt mentioned, there is an existing Game Awards called the Game Awards, Jeff Keighley's brainchild, and it is coming next week on December 6th as of time of recording. So I thought it would be fun for the crew tonight to do a bit of a prediction game. So I've made it a bit competitive. So we're all going to be picking our winners for the major categories of the Game Awards. Some categories have been weighted to award 3 points for a correct guess. Some are weighted to award 5. And then Game of the Year itself is a 10-point win.
So basically what I'm hearing is, I heard you like Game Awards, so we've put some Game Awards in your Game Awards,
yes,
bro.
I've gamified it. I actually called it on my doc, the Game Awards the game. So, yeah,
Jesus.
The Game Awards the game. And there's 2 additional little twists I've done too. So I've let you all choose one award category other than Game of the Year to be your Super Turbo prediction. So this is a category that you're really sure is gonna, your pick is right. You're very confident. And if you get it right, it'll be worth 10 points. But if you get it wrong, it's going to be negative 10 points. So it's actually a high risk, high reward. And then secondly, there's an underdog of the year you can pick. So in one category, you can pick a second nomination that you don't really think they're going to win, but you would just like to, you'd be happy if they did. You'd like to see them get recognized. And that's just going to be worth an extra 2 points if you get that right. Mm-hmm. So hopefully you've all done a little bit of reading on the different nominations and are ready to go. So we're gonna start with some of the smaller categories and work our way up to the big ones. So we'll blast through a few of the smaller ones.
It's probably worth mentioning as well that this is who we think is going to win, not necessarily who we would vote for.
Yeah,
yes,
this is a prediction, not a like a desire, not a personal award. This is we're all competing to try and get the most correct responses to what's actually going to happen.
Yeah. Some of my picks tonight have made me feel quite dirty because I would not vote for these myself.
Same.
But it's all about winning. All right, it's all about winning.
Yeah.
and then in a future episode, I don't think we probably will be able to do it next week, but as soon as we can, we'll actually announce the winners, and maybe there'll be some sort of prize for whoever gets it right, or maybe it's just going to be kudos. But we'll see. We'll see.
But play along at home because you can.
Yeah. In fact, if you do play along at home, then you can email us at mail@partyloaded.com. If you can get your email in before the actual awards, and you manage to beat us, then we will absolutely give you props and give you some kudos on the podcast. So do send in your predictions as well if you can get them in time to mail@partyloaded.com.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we'll start with best debut indie game. Now, I also figured to keep it a bit quicker, I'm not going to read off all the nominations for every category. So hopefully you all know which game you're going to pick. Mm-hmm. So to get us started, I'm picking Yoku's Island Express.
Okay.
So Jam, what are you picking for best debut indie game? Florence?
Yeah.
Okay. Matt?
I'm also picking Florence.
And Luke?
I'm picking Donut County.
Okay.
Yeah, and only because I think that Florence will get its due in one of the other categories, and the people voting for it will know that. So
I definitely metagame that a bit, where I'm like, I've given too many awards to this one game.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I just went, that one again.
yeah, because it's worth pointing out that a lot of these awards are actually going to be voted on by, I think it's a group of about 60 or so industry veterans. So
yes.
People from IGN, GameSpot, Polygon, Kotaku, Kind of Funny, Giant Bomb, all those sorts of guys get involved. So yeah.
Then 10% of the weighting for every category is public vote. So 10% is you can vote online on the Game Awards website. So you can actually influence it too. Best multiplayer game. I have actually picked Fortnite for best multiplayer game.
Same.
Yeah. Anybody else with a Fortnite?
Who the fuck is not going to vote Fortnite for this?
Yeah. All right. I think that's the smart one.
Matt, challenge.
Matt?
I am not going to vote Fortnite because fuck Fortnite. I'm going to vote Destiny 2 Forsaken.
Okay.
Destiny 2,
Other people, or the other people.
Okay. All right.
Some more people.
So spoilers ahead of time. I haven't voted for Fortnite in any of these categories.
I did, not because I would, but because I think people will.
Absolutely. That's the name of the game. I don't like Fortnite myself.
I absolutely think they will, but I'm also taking a gamble here.
Okay. All right.
Strategic.
Interesting.
Now, one category I had basically no idea about, so I had to just pick a random game, basically, was sports and racing games. So I went for Forza Horizon 4 for sports and racing games.
What did you do? Went for Forza. Yep.
Forza for Jam. What about Matt?
I also went for Forza.
Forza and Luke.
I think that you're all very clever because I also did too.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's the biggest kind of first party game on there.
It's pretty.
It's also like, I've seen a lot of people on Twitter playing it that don't like racing games that are saying it's amazing.
There's been good buzz on it this year for sure.
Yeah. All right. Strategy game. So I went for Into the Breach on strategy game. What about you guys?
Right there with you, man. Yep.
Yeah, really?
I went for BattleTech.
BattleTech on a strategy game.
Yeah.
Interesting.
No, I thought the FTL link might give this one a bit of a spotlight that got it some positive traction in the votes. So
yeah. I definitely think of the other games in there, Banner Saga, BattleTech, Frostpunk, and Valkyria Chronicles, Into the Breach is the one that I've heard the most buzz about. So I'm pretty confident on that one. And then best family game, which is a bit of an interesting category. I went for Super Mario Party.
I also did, but I have my underdog vote.
Oh, really? What's your underdog?
I really want Overcooked 2.
Overcooked 2. So Jam,
I love it.
Locking in her underdog vote for Overcooked 2 in family game.
nice.
What did you get?
Also voted for Super Mario Party, although I think this is probably one of the slightly more contested categories, so we'll see.
Yeah.
And Matt?
I went for Starlink because it's another one of those games I've seen a lot of people actually saying really, really positive things about it. So.
Okay. That's the one that has like a Nintendo tie-in, doesn't it? Didn't they put like Star Fox R-Wing in it?
They have Star Fox in it, and it has all the 3D model, the actual physical models. Yeah.
I playtested at PAX. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Next up is Best Fighting Game. So I went for Dragon Ball FighterZ.
Yes.
Because I think that's the one I hear the most about this year.
There's no competition in that category.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree.
I also agree, because I totally intended to say that the whole time. I didn't leave that one blank at all.
Yeah.
So, but you're going to go for Dragon Ball?
No question for me. Like, it's the franchise that people love, and also it's been hailed as a pretty solid fighting game this year, so yeah.
From everything I've heard, it made a fighting game accessible, which is a huge deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to skip a couple of them in the order they're presented because we're sticking to the 3-point ones for now. So, it depends by presented, I mean on the Wikipedia page. So
okay.
We're going to follow our own document here. So we're going for best audio design.
Oh, I have to flip my notes.
So for best audio design, what did I do? I went for Red Dead Redemption 2.
Ooh, I differ from you finally. I went for Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe we're all going to have different votes. I went for Forza Horizon 4.
Forza and Luke.
Wow, we are all going to have different votes because I went for God of War for this one.
Nice.
Yeah. I think any one of those games in that category could win it.
Oh,
The reason
totally.
I went for Forza was because racing games usually have amazingly good audio design, so...
I was on the precipice between this and Spider-Man, but yeah, I think that God of War maybe just overall had some stuff that got talked about during the year in a lot of the media outlets a bit more, so that's why I picked
Oh, so
it.
you're metagaming it. I just really like Spider-Man.
No, that's all. The whole point is the metagame.
Yeah, I know. I just think Spider-Man has some extraordinary detail, like how the music builds in when you start swinging between skyscrapers. Like, there's just some touches to it that make it feel epic. And I really appreciate how they did that.
For this category, I was focusing on like the more ambient noises, like with Red Dead, like the environmental noises, not so much the music, because there is the separate category for best score music. Yeah, that was my approach to it. What about best VR/AR game? My pick was Astrobot Rescue Mission. Mm-hmm. What about you guys?
That was also my pick.
Okay.
I think this is Christian and I paying attention to what the buzz is, I think. So.
It is, because I wouldn't have a frigging clue. I'm just going to say Beat Saber.
Beat Saber for Jam?
Yeah. I think Beat Saber is still a solid pick, personally.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think it's come out a little too late, personally.
Possibly, yeah.
I was voting for Beat Saber.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also got two categories where I'm tossing up whether or not I make my Super Turbo prediction.
Oh.
And VR AR game was one of those.
Okay.
But I think I'm actually going to hold off on that.
So we're just going to go for Beat Saber.
Just Beat Saber.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. And then we've got Games for Impact, which is an interesting category. What was my pick for that? Let me find it. For my pick for that is The Missing, J.J. Macfield and the Island of Memories. Have you guys seen that game?
No.
Seen it. Don't know heaps about it, though.
Yeah, I've just been seeing a lot of positive stuff on Twitter. Maybe it's because I follow Swery, who's the game director, so maybe that's influencing me a bit. Mm-hmm. But I'm pretty confident in that one. What about you guys?
Well, I voted for Celeste for this one. Because aside from being a remarkable platformer, one of the things that this game does very well is the impactful story that it tells as you play through the young lady's journey. And I think they got talked about quite a bit during the year, so that's my pick for that one.
I am not as familiar with a number of these games. I went for Florence because I adored the way it delivered its story.
Okay, and Matt?
Florence is my Super Turbo prediction.
Ooh, okay. Florence for Super Turbo.
Pretty confident, are we, Mr. Game Dad?
Yes, I am.
Interesting.
I don't think I chose
add-
a Super Turbo.
It's not too late. You can just pick one later.
Yeah.
So there was 3 categories I had Super Turbo predictions set aside, depending on if other people made a Super Turbo prediction. And 2 times the game I was choosing was Florence. So
Okay.
Oh, nice.
So I'll give you both a little bit of a preview. My Super Turbo prediction and Underdog of the Year are both in the same category.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Hilarious.
So the next category and the last category that is scored at 3 points is Best Score/Music. I have picked Octopath Traveler. What about you guys?
Spider-Man for me.
I picked Celeste.
Ooh.
So we've got Spider-Man for Luke.
Yep.
Celeste for Matt.
I am
And
also Spider-Man.
Spider-Man definitely does have some lovely music in it.
Tough category, that one. I could have gone with any of those, really.
Yeah. The reason I ended up choosing Celeste was because I haven't even played the game, but when I actually was listening to the soundtrack, I realized that several of the songs I've heard without realizing it.
Yeah.
So that's telling.
It's real good, man.
It's really good.
That's probably one of the categories that I let my personal taste influence it a little bit, because I adore the music from Octopath Traveler, but we'll see. I still have a feeling it could actually win.
Yeah.
So moving into categories worth 5 points. So these are the big boys. We're going to start with, we're actually doing RPG is what we're doing.
Okay.
Oh,
So
okay.
so what was your pick for best RPG, guys?
I went for Monster Hunter World.
I also went for Monster Hunter World.
Ooh.
I also went for Monster Hunter World.
I did
Luke?
not. And the reason why I did not is because I think there'll be a number of people in the judging audience who will not consider it to be strong enough of an RPG for this category. And that it may fit better into other categories. So I went for Octopath for this one.
Really?
It
Octopath?
got
Interesting.
nominated, though. That's the hurdle. just think your reasoning is flawed and you're wrong.
It may be flawed. I personally don't understand why it got nominated for this category. I think it fits much better in others, but yeah.
Yeah, I do too. I think it more of as a action adventure game, I guess.
Absolutely,
But,
yeah.
yeah. But I think that it's going to get recognized somewhere, and that was the spot that I felt it would get recognized.
Same.
So that was my pick. So next up is Best Action Adventure Game, which is a bit of a weird category, sitting alongside Best Action Game. But I went for Spider-Man in this one.
Yep.
But you guys?
Ditto.
Yeah.
Spider-Man?
Same.
I say
Really?
Spider-Man a lot.
Yeah.
So that everyone for Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Is that the first one we've all agreed on? I think it might be.
No, second.
And Forza, yeah.
And Forza, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Now we have Best Action Game. And this is definitely one where I picked against my own personal taste. I went for Call of Duty.
Oh, wow, okay.
Ooh.
What about you guys?
I went Destiny 2 because I really didn't want to go for Call of Duty.
I went for Destiny 2, but for different reasons. One is that I think Call of Duty maybe hasn't been out long enough to really gain traction. And secondly, because Destiny has been that big comeback story throughout the year, and I think it's actually generated a lot of positive buzz in the press as well. So
Definitely.
And I'm right there with Luke. I also chose Destiny 2 Forsaken.
Okay, so I'm the only one who diverged there from the group with my Call of Duty pick.
yeah.
Not code blobs.
All right, now we have Best Mobile Game. This I did also go for Fortnite on Best Mobile Game. How about you guys?
I refused. I went Florence.
Florence for Jam.
I also went Florence because fuck Fortnite.
I also went Florence, but the reason being is because I think Fortnite is better recognised in other formats. And whilst it has got a great mobile port, I think that the voting group will probably recognise it in other places.
I think Florence just does some things that take extraordinary advantage of the mobile platform.
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
It's delightful.
I
It's the
feel
difference
like
between a mobile port and a mobile specific
Yes.
game.
Exactly.
I feel like I'm at a disadvantage for a bunch of these because I've never played Florence. I don't actually know really what it is. So
Ooh,
Neither
it's
have
so,
I.
So good. Really?
yeah,
I've never played it.
Wow.
Oh, it's so
I've seen like the
good.
logo with like a picture of a girl drawn. That's all I know.
Yeah.
Take
delightful.
40 minutes out of one of the days of this week and play the thing. You should.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
The main reason I hadn't played it right away was because it didn't come out on Android right away. So
Yeah. See? Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, moving on. We've got Best Independent Game. And this is actually my Super Turbo prediction. So my Super Turbo prediction for Best Independent Game is Celeste.
I chose Celeste also.
I chose Dead Cells.
Dead Cells.
Yep.
And Luke?
I chose both motherfuckers because this is my Super Turbo and Underdog of the Year category.
Which is which?
nice.
Which is which?
Celeste is my Super Turbo and Underdog is
Same
Dead
Super
Cells.
Turbo.
Yep.
Luke and I are going to either drown together or swim together.
Exactly.
And then,
I'm offsetting it a little bit because if Celeste doesn't win it, I'm pretty confident that Dead Cells will. So
yeah, so you'll end up -8 for that category.
yeah.
All right. And then does that everybody? Yeah, we've got Celeste for Jam, Dead Cells for Matt, and Celeste Super Turbo for Luke with Dead Cells as an underdog.
I'm so conflicted about that category personally too because I would love to see either of those two get recognised. So
Yeah.
Celeste is a game I've never played, but I know it got a 10 out of 10 from IGN. People love it, and it's also nominated for Game of the Year, but I think that it's more likely to be recognised as an independent game. So
agreed.
cool. Next is Best Performance.
Holy shit! This category.
Yeah, this is a tight category.
It really is.
Can
So
I
what-
explain mine and my choice for it?
Yes, go ahead.
It's Chris Judge because of the many ways he can say boy.
Boy.
I think it's super impressive.
Matt?
I had to go with the meme value. So I went with Brian Deckard as Connor from Detroit.
Oh wow.
I really, really wanted to choose Yuri, though, for Spider-Man. I really wanted to, but I went with Brian.
I went for Brian Deckard as well because I think that he's far and away the best part of Detroit Become Human. And I think the performance is part of that. So
Yeah.
I've got a real solid feeling about that one. What about you, Luke?
Interesting. Well, Matt, I got you back because I went for Yuri. Because
Yes, good.
Going for Yuri?
yeah, I think Yuri Lowenthal as Spider-Man and Peter Parker in Spider-Man. His performance for me is right up there with Mark Hamill as the Joker in the Batman franchise. He made the character his own in a way that is incredibly believable. So
His acting made me cry. So
yeah, real good, real good.
I need to play more. God damn.
It was a tight call between that and the actress who played Cassandra in Assassin's Creed, based on what I've heard, and also Chris Judge as well. I think they're all really good selections.
It's a really solid category.
Yeah.
Did you not finish Spider-Man, Jam?
Not yet. Don't judge. There's so many single-player games that I have
There's
not
a lot to
finished.
play.
It's absurd. It's horrible. Most of these games, I'm like, oh yeah, I played 6 hours. Damn it.
Next category is Best Art Direction. And my pick for Best Art Direction was Red Dead 2.
Ooh, I went Dad of War.
Dad of War for Jan.
I went with Return of the Obra Dinn because it's unique as hell.
I don't know what that game looks like.
Yeah,
so
I haven't looked it up
disadvantage
enough.
there.
It's pixel art, and it's completely black and green. It looks like it's on an old CRT monitor type thing. Like
Game
it looks
Boy?
really neat. Yeah, like a Game Boy, old school PC. Yeah, it looks really interesting.
It's a very artsy sort of choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
What did you go for, Luke?
Matt, I think you're crazy. It's not going to be that. Look, this is one that pained me greatly. I picked Red Dead as well against my better judgment, but I think this one might be where it picks up some points. So
Yeah, I think just the sort of cinematic look and feel of the game just comes across so well. And I think, really good art direction.
realism in a way that is striking for sure.
Yeah. And then after art direction, we have Best Narrative. This, I think, was also a really tough one.
Yeah.
My pick for Best Narrative is Marvel Spider-Man. What about you guys?
I also chose Spider-Man, and this was really difficult.
Yeah.
Luke?
I went God of War.
God of War.
Also
for
was
narrative.
very difficult. Very, very difficult.
I also went God of War, but I've played only the beginnings of so many of these games.
Yeah. Narrative is one category that really does benefit from actually playing all the way through the games.
Yeah.
Biggest reason why I went God of War over Spider-Man in this category, and I'm hoping that the thought amongst the judges is consistent with this too, is that I felt that Spider-Man had some definite low spots with the narrative, whereas God of War was consistent throughout. So
Yeah.
I
I had to completely judge it based on the fact that Life is Strange 2 I hadn't been hearing much about, and the feedback I'd heard on Detroit was that sometimes the story was really ham-fisted.
yeah,
so.
yeah. I mean,
I
Life
think
is Strange is
Detroit's-
amazing, but it's only had one episode so far. So yeah.
Yeah.
that was exactly my reasoning. Life is Strange hasn't been, not enough of it is out. And then Detroit, I think, is actually quite a bad narrative overall. I think Connor's story is good, but the other two I don't really like.
Agreed.
And then Red Dead I haven't finished, so I got no real idea there.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. We're closing in on the last couple of 5-point categories. We've got Best Ongoing Game. What did you guys do for Best Ongoing Game? Jam, I take it you didn't pick Fortnite?
I mean, I was going to. I changed it to Overwatch at the last minute because I had to, because I adore Overwatch and I want that to be the vote.
Okay, all right. Luke?
I'm just going to slash my wrists now.
Fortnite?
Yeah, Fortnite.
Yeah.
I literally
went-
have a line through Fortnite on my page.
I went
wait,
for
no,
Fortnite
Overwatch.
too. What about you, Matt?
I went with No Man's Sky because the turnaround in public opinion, I think, might actually get it the award.
Yeah.
See, I agree with you, and that's why No Man's Sky is my underdog of the year.
Nice.
Bravo, clever.
Yeah, so I think Fortnite's going to win because it's Fortnite, but I personally would like to see No Man's Sky win because I think it has done such a good story of turning itself around. So that's my soft spot.
I like points in competitions like this, but I also like justice.
Yeah. Okay, and then last 5-point category is Best Game Direction. Now, this is one that I was close to picking as my Super Turbo.
Yeah, it is my Super Turbo.
I'm pretty confident God of War is going to pick it for me.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Damn it. I went for Spider-Man.
Spider-Man for Jam.
Spider-Man.
I went for God of War.
God of War and Luke.
If God of War does not pick up Best Game Direction, I'll be fucking shocked.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I'm in trouble.
So 3 of us for God of War, 1 then Jam for Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean, Cory
Spider-Jam.
Barlog, was one of the major characters of success this year, and I think that will be recognised. So
Yeah.
Yep.
And the whole one take single shot aspect of the direction, like never breaking that frame is so good.
They reinvented God of War. Like, it was a franchise that people had virtually forgotten about, and now nobody's going to fucking forget about it. So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings us to the big one, the Game of the Year. So the nominations for this category are Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Celeste, God of War, Marvel's Spider-Man, Monster Hunter World, and Red Dead Redemption 2. And who am I going to announce theirs first? I'm going to go Matt. Who did you pick for Game of the Year as your prediction to win?
Give me a second while I puke in my mouth.
Oh, I think I know then. Is it Red Dead, Matt?
I'm picking Red Dead Redemption 2.
Really?
But Spider-Man is my underdog of the year.
Oh, okay. That's a nice one.
Good spot for
Spider-Man
it.
for underdog.
I went for Spider-Man, personally.
Jen went for Spider-Man.
Yes.
And Luke?
Look, I think it's a 3-horse race, realistically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with perhaps underdog of Assassin's Creed, although that's not my underdog vote. I've already stated that. I truly, genuinely do think that people will do the sensible thing and put God of War on top this year.
God of War for Luke?
Yeah.
And my pick was God of War also.
Really?
Yes, Luke and I both God of Warring, and then Red Dead for Matt and Spider-Man for Jam.
Yeah, because like the way I was kind of thinking about it was the critical reception on Red Dead is so high. It is one of the highest rated games of all time. And I think that is probably going to be reflected in Game of the Year.
I mean, Spider-Man was too.
You just really love Red Dead, Matt. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
It's your favourite game ever.
My reasoning, just to go on that thread of thought, is that whilst I agree that that's true, I think that a lot of it is inflated because of the year worth of hype we had leading up to it. And I think that the actual narrative around it since it's released is that there is enough detractors that will probably drag that vote down a little bit.
Maybe.
Whereas I don't think that there was really any detractors at all when God of War was big in the headlines. Like, people knew that shit was legit. So
I feel exactly the same.
I would say the same about Spider-Man, though. I don't think there's been many detractors about Spider-Man.
Yeah,
like it's between the three of them. But like again, like Red Dead Redemption is the one that has just had the ridiculous critical reception, and I totally agree that it's unreasonable, which is why I was puking in my mouth. But like, I just don't think that that's going to go away. So who knows? It's a tough one.
yeah.
I want to see Spider-Man win.
I think looking back in future years, I think God of War will be remembered more fondly than Spider-Man, actually, because I think Spider-Man ultimately is another open world game where you are ticking off objectives, as amazing as it is. I think God of War is just more sort of special for gaming, personally.
But we're talking about Game of the Year this year, not Game of the Year.
I know,
but we look back a few years.
I think the judges will have that kind of mindset. Just my interpretation is that the judges will be thinking God of War is a more significant thing for games. And so they're going to award it Game of the Year in the year it's out.
It's kind of similar to, like, if you look back on last year and look at all of the outlets and places that awarded PUBG Game of the Year, of which there were a few. I think that, looking back on that game now, there was no way we would ever declare it a Game of the Year because it's just been, fairly unimpressive, all things considered. But in terms of what it has done in the industry, I don't think you can deny that it was an absolute sort of, ripple effect of everything that's come after in that genre. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say, like, the other part of my justification here is which game is going to piss off the most people if it doesn't get Game of the Year.
That's part of why I picked Fortnite for a bunch of things, because I think that if they don't pick Fortnite, then they're going to have millions and millions of children screaming at them going, why didn't you pick Fortnite? Yeah.
Well, I'm really pleased that for those last few, especially, we had some good diversity going on between us. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think, Luke, you and I aligned a little closer. I think that just shows that, we're superior in our choices. And
I mean, whatever.
I think it shows that you have both got shitty opinions.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm going to tell it all up.
It makes watching the thing that much more exciting now.
Yes. Yeah, I absolutely. It's part of why I wanted to do this. Is it gives us some stake in it,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So the other final thing I wanted to touch on before we wrap up is the other aspect of the Game Awards, which is game announcements and new trailers dropping. So they've already announced, like Jeff Keighley, I think that there's going to be at least 10 new games announced this year. And yeah, what do you guys reckon are some of the games that are going to be announced at this year's Game Awards?
Before we mention specifics, I just want to also point out that there's another thing going on which has not happened in previous years. which is that Greg Miller and the Kindy Funny crew have actually put together a games showcase happening around the same time in the wake of the PlayStation Experience not being on this year. And they've actually reached out to a whole bunch of other sort of developers, a lot of indies in particular, but some big names too. And they're apparently going to be showcasing 60 new games at that thing. So
that's insane. That's got to be tons of like smaller titles.
Oh, it's absolutely nuts.
Heaps of small titles. Yeah.
But that being said, amongst all those small titles, I know that there are some big ones because I know that it was spoken about today that Sega might be doing something Yakuza related at that as well. So,
oh yeah, I did read something about that.
Yeah,
actually.
And that's happening on Saturday the 10th. So Saturday the 10th? No, sorry, Saturday the 8th. I want to say it's around the weekend coming up in about a week or so's time. So. I'll have to check the date afterwards, but it's not too far off the Game Awards too. So whatever doesn't happen at Game Awards, I think we might see some other interesting stuff at that event too. So, but for the Game Awards itself, there's been some stuff happening this week around a new Aliens game.
So Alien Blackout. That's what. Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see if that happens. I don't know. Nintendo's been having a slightly increased presence at the Game Awards in recent years. They revealed some Bayonetta stuff last year, which is a kind of big thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if they pull something out. I don't necessarily think we're going to see anything Metroid shaped, but if we
that's on my list actually.
Yeah, I mean,
Metroid Prime 4. I think a teaser trailer.
It's not outside the realm of possibility. That's for sure.
I have put my tinfoil hat on because I've got a gigantic conspiracy theory. And it actually leads into just one game prediction that I'm expecting we'll see more of, but not necessarily an announcement. So Sony's not doing PSX and they're not doing E3 next year. So I'm sure as hell that there's going to be several Sony-related announcements at the Game Awards.
Okay.
And I think that Microsoft is going to try and take some of the air out of them by showing some actual Halo Infinite gameplay.
Ooh. Interesting.
That's interesting.
That'd be sweet. Well, I'm still hanging out for some Tenchu news, Christian, since you got my hopes up at E3. Fingers crossed.
I think Sekiro Shadows Die Twice has taken the wind out of my Tenchu hopes.
I know. And I'm looking forward to that.
We've still got a potential Borderlands 3 lurking somewhere on the periphery as well. So
You're stealing all my predictions. I've got 4 games, and you've said 2 of them already.
All right, go ahead.
You've actually said 3 of them. I've got Metroid Prime 4 teaser, Borderlands 3, and Bayonetta 3 release date. Okay. And then my 4th one is a Bloodborne 2, I think will be announced.
Interesting.
Ooh, yeah. I could see that. Bloodborne 2 would be a really good PlayStation exclusive, so I would totally tick the box for that one as well.
Yeah. Any others?
No, I'm just excited.
Yep.
I think there's going to be another PlayStation exclusive remaster of some description. But I don't know what franchise I'd point my finger at exactly.
Final Fantasy VIII.
Final Fantasy VIII.
What about like Air Guitar Hero VR?
No, I don't know. Yeah, who knows? I mean, Jeff Keighley seems pretty confident that he's got some big things to drop this year. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of that is obviously hype talk to get people G'd up for the event. But by the same token, it's not like they've had small stuff in recent years either. So, who knows?
Here is a hilarious prediction. What if Blizzard turns up for Diablo 3?
Oh my!
Wow.
Oh, that would be just popcorn.
Yeah.
Popcorn for days.
Watch the Fallout. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Actually, Fallout. What if Bethesda goes and actually shows some of the new Elder Scrolls or Starfield?
Yeah, I doubt it. One thing we did see at E3 that we haven't heard a spec on since though, which could turn up, is that Wolfenstein DLC with the 2 daughters. Wolfenstein New Blood, I think it was called. So they've been very radio silent on that. So I'm wondering if that's actually getting close to a release date at some point. So, yeah, don't know.
Good pick.
All right.
One last prediction. There'll be some sort of mobile game that will piss everyone off.
Yeah. Will it have Battle Royale?
Oh, God. What would be the next mobile game to piss everybody off? We've had Command & Conquer this year. We've had Diablo. What else is really going to upset people?
How to for boyfriend mobile port where you date each other as pigeons.
Oh, God. Okay.
Bioshock Mobile.
Oh.
That would break my heart.
Hey, Half-Life 3 mobile.
Yeah.
God.
Fallout 76 mobile.
Just bricks your phone. Awesome. All right. Well, anyway, on that note, that is a solid bunch of predictions. So looking forward to seeing who comes out on top on that one. So, yeah, as Christian mentioned, if you've got your own ideas of who's going to win each of those categories, then chuck it up in an email or actually, yeah, you probably want to do it in an email. Don't post it on Twitter or on our Facebook page because you don't want to share your predictions with everybody else. But keep it secret, keep it safe, send it in. And we'll take a look at that and see how you go. So, yeah, thanks, guys, for getting through all that and putting some game names down. We've actually got a couple of episodes coming up in the near future where we're going to do this for realsies for ourselves and actually go through our party favourites of 2018 in December. So a bit of a different take on it because we've got our own categories. So we'll be able to go through some of the stuff that is our completely subjective favourites and not be forced to vote for things just because we think they're going to be the popular choice. So
I'm going to make an offer for people that actually decide to email in. If somebody emails in with their predictions before the awards and they get a higher score than all of us, we should totally buy them the Game of the Year from the awards.
Okay.
All right, yep. I'm down for that. I'm down to split
I will
that with
totally
you.
put in cash.
Yeah, anyone listening, you mail in, you beat us, we'll give you the Game of the Year.
Yep.
I mean, not maybe everyone who beats us, but maybe the highest score.
The highest score, yeah.
Highest
Yeah.
score.
We'll pick a random one if they're equal or something like that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Gauntlet's down. Yeah, baby. Yep. High on life.
I should have put
indeed.
some more research into my choices.
Yep. Oh, look, our combined nous and expertise, I think we will definitely be tough to beat, but some of the games on these lists are going to be tough to beat as well. So, yep. All right, well, yeah, thanks everybody for listening. We have got a whole bunch more of the stuff that we just talked about tonight to play in the next week or so, as well as our party game of the month, which is going to be what we're chatting about next week. So come hang out with us as we talk a little bit of Scythe. Yeah, good luck to all of us tearing ourselves away from Red Dead Online to do that this week. It's going to be great. Yeah, anyway, any closing notes or thoughts, guys? We happy with all the selections? No taxi backsies? Feeling good?
No takesies backsies. That's
No
all.
taxi
taxi
backsies.
Yep.
Fallout 76 is so great, Adrian. Oh my god.
And on that note, thanks everybody for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll chat to you again next week. For now, good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
The Party Loaded podcast is a Channel Endgame production. For this and more great gaming content, bookmark channelendgame.com.